Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome to your weekly Nintendo News Roundup live. Reaching every Friday night, the All-In Crew breaks down the week in Nintendo news. Hey, Eric.
Hey Seth, I'm raising a glass. How about you?
I'll raise a Stanley. Does that count? I have a,
Well,
I have that. It's a
that's
glass.
that's the brand name. Okay,
Yeah,
I was confused for a second. I was
Stanley.
like you name
It's
your
a
mugs. Okay, understood
yeah.
now.
I mean, that being said, my wife and I do both have these, and I'm not not sponsored or whatever. I love this thing. This is my constant companion. And I literally never leave home without it. And my wife and I both have one. I loved it so much. I bought one for my wife because she was like, "You're exaggerating" or whatever. And I was like, "No, like I'm gonna buy you one and you'll see." And now we both love them, and both of their names are Stanley. So
Both of their names are
yeah,
just your own, just kind of internal religion with you and
yeah,
your wife, essentially.
yeah. Just I have my Stanley, or it'll be like, "Where's Stanley? I forgot where I put Stanley," or whatever. So
Nice, nice. Well,
yeah,
that's nice to know. Maybe I'll have to check one out myself. I could certainly use a Stanley in my life, but Seth, here at the beginning of every episode of All In, we have to do? We have to count down, or not really count down. We have to shout out the Stanleys in the world of the All In Media Patreon.
that's right. We could count them down, I guess, but what's the point of that? Let's just thank them instead. Let's thank our patrons, our friends and supporters, patreon.com/allinpodcast. Beginning with our golden banana tier, thank you to Rob Yapel, Sean O'Baggins, Ashton, Tim A, aka NeoPrime33, aka Nintendo Dad number 4, Phelan Ward, Bill Tucker, Marcus O'Neill, Liam D, Gamer Jason, Andrew Wilkins, Alan #Look to the Cookie, SAZ, and blah blah blah. Thank you all very much, all of our Golden Banana Bunch. You can get a 7-day free trial to that tier as well. Join their ranks and check out all of the exclusive content over there on our Patreon. Moving into our Triforce tier, Eric. Thank you to Josh Vaughn, the godfather of Tingle Love Tuesday, John Dat Fast Cummins of the Retro Logic podcast, as well as the On Topic Retro podcast, the Globe Trottin' Jet Set Nintendo Hub, and Sparky of the Nintendo Hub over on YouTube, Adam Caparello of the Retro Groove podcast, Shy Guy, the other half of our Shy Guy mod squad. Thank you, Shy Guy. Danny Lena Hosa, Dan Andaluma, Bowza, the Keeper of the Hugs, the Don Rob, Foolish Fuji, the Koala from Down Under, and the Legend himself.
The Stan Lee in a world of Stanleys, Uncle Randy.
And you know what? Stan Lee's name was also just Stanley. So
Stanley Lieber, as a matter of fact. Fun fact to start off the All-In News Roundup here tonight. Stan Lee's real name was Stanley Lieber.
That's right. Yon32 in the chat says, "Well done, Eric. Well done."
Well, thank you.
He enjoyed the Uncle Randy shout out. Big thanks to all of our patrons over there on Patreon. Again, 7-day free trial. It's a great way to support everything we do here. Another great way to support everything we do here is picking up some merch. allin.media is our website and merch store. You can support the show that way. If you listen on your audio feed, 5-star ratings and reviews are very much appreciated. And if you're watching either live on YouTube with us, or if you're watching the VOD, like, comment, subscribe. That helps feed that algorithm, and we really appreciate that too. But Eric, what do you say we get into some news? It actually wound up being a bigger news week than I was expecting.
Yeah, it's a big week in general. Massive weekend. We got Bit Summit going on this weekend. I've been trying to catch some of that. Obviously, Evo is going on this weekend. I've been watching some of the pools earlier, but turns out that's not the only goings on within the video game world. So yeah, I guess we should probably let's talk about it.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about.
Yes,
Splatoon 3 got just a megaton amount of news this week that I really was not expecting. First of all, we just wrapped up the Splatfest last weekend, the Palace Theme Park Beach one. Team Beach did win, so congrats to Team Beach players. But then they did turn around basically right after that Splatfest was over. They turned around and announced the next Splatfest basically straight away. And I gotta be honest, for me personally, this is the most difficult Splatfest I think of all time.
Yeah. It's pretty quickly that I wind up kind of veering one way or another. But yeah, honestly, for this one, even though I don't really consider myself like a foodie necessarily, which would you eat every day? Bread, rice, or pasta? Oh, man. I mean, I think the reason it's such a hard decision is because they're all so versatile. I think about all the different things that you could do. I mean, bread, immediately sandwiches, but even just something like, loaves of bread that you can, dip in butter or jam or something like that. Rice, the billions of different ways that you can flavor or prepare rice, and then pasta similarly. I think ultimately I came down on rice. But yeah, when they put this one out, I was like, wow, that's a genuinely very hard decision.
Yeah, it is. It really, I mean, I have mulled over this on the Nintendo Drive last night. Like half the show was just us talking about this. I mean, like I've mulled over this for a long time. I think ultimately I'm gonna go with pasta. I do feel a little culturally obligated to go with pasta, but I mean, yes, like Jan32 in the chat says, yeah, sourdough, ciabatta, rye, breadsticks, multigrain. I mean, just the types of bread alone, let alone the applications of that bread, is insane. They're all so versatile, and I literally eat rice almost every day. So, like, to the question, like, would you eat rice every day? Yeah, I do. So it was really hard. I think ultimately I'm gonna go pasta, but it's a tough one, man. But that's happening on August 9th, the weekend of
Yes.
August 9th through August 11th. And
Yeah,
that
but
was already
yeah,
like,
it's crazy. I don't think that they could ever possibly top that Splatfest, Seth. I don't see how they could possibly do it. I mean, bread, rice, pasta, that's got to be the end all be all final true Splatfest of Splatoon 3, right?
yeah, I like that alone. It's like, oh wow, like that's kind of crazy that they're already announcing the next Splatfest. Well, later on in the week, they went ahead and just announced the next thing after that, happening in September, the Grand Festival, kind of really the end game of Splatoon 3.
Yeah. So this is the big one, ladies and gentlemen. This is not just a Splatfest. This is a huge content update. This is an event for all intents and purposes. They're actually adding a new hub area to the game. There is IRL merch. We've got a ton of stuff going on for this Splatfest coming in September. That's going to feature, as you can see here in the video, it's going to feature all three groups. The Squid Sisters, Off the Hook, and Deep Cut all performing together with matching costumes. I'm not one to really use the word epic, but I mean,
it's pretty epic. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, the notion of the three idol groups being like as a part of a Splatoon 3 Splatfest, that made too much sense. Could see that coming a mile away.
yeah.
But what we actually have here, and this is happening, by the way, September 12th through 15th, just shy of the game's 2-year anniversary. This is tied into specifically a past, present, and future Splatfest that is going to be, for all intents and purposes, just as they did with both Splatoon 1 and 2, we can assume that this is going to be like the big finale Splatfest that kind of determines the future of the series, if the previous entries are anything to go off of. So, I mean, this is kind of like the end all be all. I'm sure that they're going to continue supporting the game with other Splatfests after this, which they also did with Splatoon 1 and 2, but this is the big one. This is the one. If you're only going to ever play one Splatfest, it should be this one.
Now, when Seth talks about potentially determining the future of the franchise, there are a couple people out there that may not know kind of what you're referring to. So, like, we need a lot of people to jump in on this, because I think you should expound on that just a little bit, my friend.
Yeah, so like they had the final Splatfest, the kind of equivalent of this with Splatoon 1 was a Callie and Marie Splatfest. And the results of that directly fed into the story of Splatoon 2. So when it came to Splatoon 2, because I think Callie was the winner of that one, I get them mixed up.
That's fair.
I get the names mixed up, but anyway, one of them won, and so the other one in the story was like missing, and there's like a falling out between the group, like in the lore of Splatoon.
Yeah.
And then Splatoon 2's final Splatfest was Chaos versus Order, and Chaos won, And so that's why Splatoon 3's story and its a whole world is in like this post-apocalypse, sort of Mad Max vibe. And that's why we got Side Order, which was, kind of showing the order side of the coin. So like they literally base the direction of the franchise on these major Splatfests. And we can assume that this past, present, and future one is going to be similar. And it really just kind of makes your head spin of like what that could mean. If past wins, does it mean we get a prequel? If present wins, does that mean we just kind of go forward in the current timeline? If future wins, do we get a massive leap forward with like a futuristic Splatoon? It's interesting.
If past wins, could we get a storyline about the mammalians, like really take over the lore? Future wins,
Maybe.
could all the octolings become cyborgs or something? There's a lot of potential with any, I think, of the different choices. And I just mentioned past and present, but I mean, still with the I'm sorry, I just mentioned past and future, but even with the present option,
Yeah.
there's still so much insanity going on in the present of Splatoon. There's still a lot of stories, I think, that you could very easily tell, even if the team present wins. I do
Mhm.
think, I do think with that specific Splatfest, it makes sense. Past, present, future makes perfect sense for a Splatoon 3 Splatfest on paper, but present, I do think for a lot of people is going to be a lot less interesting of an option compared to past and future. I do think that I do think that either past or future is going to win. I don't see present doing very well.
I mean, we'll see. I don't really know where I fall with this because the other thing that's important to notate here is that each of the idol groups are also going to be representing the three options here in the Splatfest. So it's not just like there's an extra layer of not only are you choosing between those three options, you're also kind of choosing which like idol group you're backing.
Yeah.
Um,
I've got
and
to
it's
imagine the Squid Sisters are going to be passed. Um,
right.
the other two, though, I'm not really as sure
We can
on.
see on the options here. You can actually see like
Oh,
the eyes. So yeah, Squid Sister is going to be passed. Present is going to be Pearl and Marina, and future is Deep Cut.
that's kind of what I figured, but I didn't know if
Yeah,
it was just going to be that clearly laid out, especially
yeah,
with
they
Side Order coming out and Pearl and Marina really coming back in. As far
yeah.
as as far as the idol groups that we've had the most recent experience with in the lore, technically, Off the Hook is the team who we've had the most recent experience with.
Well, I mean, and for me personally, like Pearl and Marina, if we're just talking about the idol groups, like I go Pearl and Marina all
I
day
do
long.
too. Me too.
But
Speaking
like
of,
yeah, that's true. Yeah, well, I guess that's as good a segue as any. But yeah, I mean, I don't know where I fall on this. I'm gonna have to marinate on this a little bit longer, before I
something,
kind of decide.
but something
Um,
we will not have to marinate on.
yeah, let me pull this up here. That we are getting some new amiibo on September 5th. We're getting some really great new amiibo
Dude,
based on Splatoon 3. We're getting both Pearl and Marina from Side Order, and we're getting the Alterna from the story mode of Callie and Marie.
I mean, those just look amazing. We've had Nintendo has just continued to increase the quality of these amiibo figures. Every time we thought they were dead, they just keep coming out with new and really, really great figures. And if this doesn't illustrate to you how big this Splatfest is going to be, hopefully the fact that they are essentially creating 4 brand new amiibo figures just to hype it up. And again, if you look at them, oh man, like these honestly may be 4 of my favorite figures they've ever released. These are stunning looking, especially when you look at Off the Hook and the gold and silver ink that
Yeah.
surround Pearl and Marina, in addition to the fact that it's their costumes from the side order campaign. Like they just look so good. That's about the quickest pre-order for an amiibo I've ever put in.
Yeah, I think like this Pearl amiibo I think is my new favorite amiibo
I don't blame
ever.
you.
Like I just love the gold ink. I love her. I love her costume from Side Order and everything. I love Pearl as a character is one of my favorite Nintendo characters. I love these amiibo and yeah these are bought. And I think it's cool. Like it's neat because we also got the deep cut, amiibo, and they're also great.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have updated figures of all three idol groups, and so those are going on sale September 9th. We should also mention, and we sort of mentioned this a little bit offhandedly, but just to show everybody what we're working with here, they're also releasing merchandise like shirts for the Grand Festival. You can pre-order the shirts already. The wristband, I guess, is coming later. But it's a shirt to represent each group, which they've done before. They did it for. I actually have one of the shirts for the Team Superstar versus Team Super Mushroom. I actually have that, and they've done this before, even with Splatoon 3 with the Zelda themed one. So this is going to be representing, all three, past, present, and future, and then you got a Grand Festival wristband that you'll be able to get as well. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if this is necessarily going to be the final Splatfest, but as far as the importance, as far as grand as these events go, this is very clearly the one that they are pushing as the Splatfest, the end game, as you called it. I mean, it's not just going to be the end game event where you're choosing between past, present, and future. We have, again, a content update, which is going to include a new hub area within the game. We've got new merch, IRL merch, and we've got brand new amiibo coming, all just for this in-game event. I don't know if we've ever gotten like amiibo specifically as a cross promotion to a game event. They've all come out essentially as cross promotion with a game at large, but these are amiibo releasing specifically in tandem with the Grand Festival in Splatoon 3.
Yeah, I mean, I think they timed it, that way, and I think it's intentional. But I think they probably, it just made sense to do that anyway. It's not like they're making amiibo for these new Grand Festival costumes that the characters have or anything, but they definitely timed it that way intentionally. Yeah, and yeah, it's really cool to see all three of these people, all three of these groups taking the stage together. It is like a new hub world, which is going to be really cool and interesting to explore. Splatoon 3's already added some new hub areas and stuff as well, so it's neat to have them all kind of sharing the stage and having this big group, this big crowd with glow sticks, and I mean, it really does feel like the culmination of everything Splatoon 3 is. And like I said, I fully expect that they're going to continue like lightly supporting Splatoon 3. I expect events will still happen, but in terms of like major content updates, this does feel like the sort of crescendoing moment for Splatoon 3.
Yeah, I would imagine that we're probably still going to get like big runs and stuff like that, and maybe even a few other kind of tertiary Splatfests. But yeah, this definitely feels like kind of the big celebration. Again, as you mentioned, celebrating essentially the second anniversary of the game. But just quick, like if anybody creates custom Grand Festival amiibos with the different idol groups, if anybody does some like custom amiibo jobs, please share your pictures with me. I would love to see those.
Yeah, the outfits for the Grand Festival are really cool too. Yon32 says Splatoon 4 to launch with Switch 2. Maybe. I mean, who knows? I'm sure that Splatoon 4 is at least the like gameplay side of it is already in the pre-production phases. Now they're going to base the story off of this almost certainly. But I bet they're already thinking about it. I bet they're already in the planning phases.
Yeah,
So
I really don't think it's going to launch with Switch
me
2.
either. Yeah. No.
But yeah, I could see, a year and a half into the Switch 2's lifespan, I could see Splatoon 4 coming out. Obviously, Splatoon has such a consistent online presence for Nintendo. This has been a massive IP for Nintendo ever since the first one dropped on the Wii U a while back. They're going to want to try to continue that momentum. So, like I said, don't think it's going to launch with Switch 2, but it probably won't be too long after Nintendo's new hardware comes out where we start hearing rumblings of, I don't know, maybe a Splatoon 3 or Splatoon 4 in the past or a Splatoon 4 in the future. Who knows?
We'll find out. Or Splatoon 4 that just continues on in the present. I mean, we will find out. We'll see what happens. Like I said, if you're only ever going to play one Splatfest, you should make it that one because the outcome almost certainly will determine where Splatoon 4 goes. So, just quickly recap. We got Team Beach won the Splatfest last weekend. New Splatfest happening August 9th through 11 is going to be bread, rice, and pasta. We got the Grand Festival happening from the 12th to the 15th of September, where we're going to have the Past, Present, and Future Splatfest. We have shirts available for pre-order now. The wristband is going to be up at some point in the future. Amiibo are coming on September 5th for both Callie and Marie and Pearl and Marina. And this all just kind of was dropped this week.
Yeah.
So,
a lot of it just earlier today before we recorded.
yeah.
But yeah, so massive news coming out of Splatoon. If you have even a passing interest in the game, this is the event that you need to jump on. But I mean, honestly, since Nintendo is still creating new amiibo, I'm not going to lie, I kind of wouldn't hate to see one for the Smiling Man.
I seriously doubt that'll happen, but that would
Me
be
too.
I would be okay with that too. But that's as good a segue as any, Eric. We can talk about Emio. We finally got to see what Emio actually is after we speculated and talked about it on the show last week. Sure enough, we didn't have to wait long.
Surprise, I was completely wrong.
Well, a lot of people were predicting, a bunch of things for it. Neither one of us. I mean, I kind of figured we were going to hear what it was pretty soon. I figured that it was going to come out this year. I didn't think it was going to come out next month, and I didn't think it was going to be a Famicom Detective Club game. So, yeah, that's a thing.
I will say that when they dropped that teaser randomly last week, it really did feel like a new IP kind of thing. It was so sudden, it came out of nowhere, and it was so really unlike anything Nintendo had worked on. Were positioning it kind of like a Silent Hill-esque or, a game like that. So to find out that it is not only not a new IP, but it's actually going to be a kind of anime style visual novel, I think threw a lot of people. I don't want to say disappointed necessarily, but I do think that it threw quite a lot of people off from what they were expecting. Now, I do think a couple people were disappointed.
Yeah.
But even though I didn't play the Famicom Detective Club remakes that have come out on the Nintendo Switch, I am, because of Nintendo's teaser last week, admittedly already a little bit more invested in checking this game out.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, me too. I mean, I always wanted to play. So, Famicom Detective Club is an old, Famicom series of really early visual novels.
Yeah,
and
the name
and, yeah,
should spell it out. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, like detective games, I like games like this, and I always wanted to play the remakes that came out on Switch. Back in like 2020 maybe or 2021, or it's been a few years.
been a while. Yeah,
they remade the old games for Nintendo Switch. They're both available. I wishlisted them. They've never gone on sale, but I always wanted to play them. Never got around to it. And this one, yeah, I mean, the teaser, the type of game it is, like this is my type of game. So I'm gonna pick it up. I'm gonna try it out and see what the deal is. I do like that there's a really good video that Nintendo released that we have up here on the screen with Yoshio Sakamoto, which is just nice to see him kind of, beating the drum for this game. He's been with Nintendo for a long time, created Metroid amongst many other things. And it's nice to see him sitting here kind of talking about how he's overseeing every aspect of the game, the story, the script, and kind of talking about how he wants to make this a Famicom Detective Club game like for the modern era. Because from what I've heard the old ones are great, but like they're kind of obtuse. Like you should really play it with a guide. So my biggest sort of question mark with this is how it's going to slot in to kind of the modern era of this genre. Like, I've played some really good games in this genre, specifically Paranormasight last year was one of my favorite games of the entire year. And to me, like, that game left a large footprint for Emio to fill. So I'm going to be really curious, like, what they've done to make Famicom Detective Club make sense in 2024.
Yeah. Admittedly, this is not a genre that I have a long history with, but as you can see here, we've got some shots of the original Famicom Detective Club from, go figure, the Famicom.
The disc system.
The actual Famicom disc system, which is great. But now here, after decades, we're getting a brand new story. And I was honestly kind of surprised to find out that the Famicom Detective Club remakes did well enough to warrant a follow-up, because I mean, I've got to imagine had they not done well, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about the Smiling Man. So good for all the people who came out and supported the FDC remakes when they came out a couple years ago. And again, I don't know really what to expect. This was a great video, even though they kind of in vague terms talk about the type of story that we can expect to see. But in terms of, the gameplay, I've got to imagine they are going to hopefully do something a little bit more interesting than walking around and pressing the A button to talk to people constantly. I've got to imagine, kind of like with Paranormasight, not that they're going to try to take direct cues from that game, but hopefully as part of this idea to modernize the genre, we are going to see some hopefully unique and interesting ideas in this modern interpretation of the Detective Club.
I hope so. That's my biggest question mark. I definitely want to see how this game is going to kind of stack up. They created this whole urban myth of the Smiling Man and stuff for the game, and they're telling an original story. But I mean, the reason this game's getting made is because of this man right here. I mean, there are certain figures at Nintendo that just have that power. There are certain people at Nintendo that can champion games like this. Like the only reason Rhythm Heaven as a series continued for as long as it was is because Iwata liked it. Like there's certain people, Sakurai can walk into Nintendo and say, I'm going to make a Kid Icarus. How about that? And like Kid Icarus didn't have any cachet at that time.
Well, Iwata was the president of Nintendo.
Sure. But like I'm saying you have people that beat the drum for certain franchises. And as long as you have somebody in a position of power like Sakamoto, this stuff can get done. I'm not saying that, like, obviously there has to be some business sense to it, but he's the producer of the game, and he's he's been with Nintendo for like 40 years. He can say like, hey man, like I'll produce it. We can make this thing for cheap. We can put it out. We can sell it for $50. And I love this series, and I bet you we could pull this off. And it's cool to see him step in front of the camera. He doesn't got to do that, And I mean, he can do whatever he wants. He's Sakamoto. And here he is sitting in front of the camera telling the audience why they should be excited about it and having these cool marketing ideas and stuff like that. I mean, that's the kind of energy that the sort of old guard at Nintendo, if they want something to get done, they'll get it done. So it's cool to see franchises like this come back, And I think there's a lot of people who, beat the drum online and say that Nintendo never brings back their old franchises because there's not a new Star Fox or, F-Zero or whatever. But what about Famicom Detective Club? What about Endless Ocean? You know what I mean? Like, Nintendo is doing that. It's because there are people there that want to see that stuff get made, so it gets made. So I love to see it, and I'm happy to support it. I'm looking forward to playing it.
And again, comes out next month. Like, I didn't even think it was going to come out this year. You were a lot more conservative. You were like, well, it'll probably come out, toward the end of September, early October, something like that. Nope, next month.
Yeah, end of August 29th is when it comes out. The game is also launching at $50, which I think is actually kind of interesting for a couple of reasons. First of all, the original games when they came out were $34.99 a piece, which I think for a game like this is a little bit of an easier pill to swallow for people. But we're seeing games more and more now, this year in particular with the Nintendo Switch, things like Detective Pikachu Returns, which came out late last year, Mario vs. Donkey Kong, Endless Ocean. These games came out at $50. Not 60, not 70. The only Nintendo Switch game that's been $70 so far has been Zelda. Mm-hmm. But I feel like what this is doing is it's essentially positioning for Switch 2 like 50 is the new 40. Like when Switch 2 comes out, I feel like every game as a standard is going to be $70, and 50 is going to be the sort of budget game. Like 50 is going to be where you have your Famicom Detective Club, your Endless Ocean, like stuff like this. And because otherwise, like compared to the current scope of the Switch pricing, this is only $10 less than whatever, Mario Wonder, or anything else.
Yeah.
So,
Well, specifically in terms of the pricing for Tears of the Kingdom, when Nintendo was asked about that, and they were explicitly asked, like, are all first party Nintendo games going to be $70 from here on out? And they said, well, we're going to take it on a case by case basis. It's going to be situational. So yeah, things like Mario and Donkey Kong came out at budget prices, but even something like Luigi's Mansion 2 HD that just released, which is a very faithful remake of a 10-year-old handheld game, that came out at full price. That came out at $60. And I think that taking $50 as a budget price will be a lot easier pill to swallow after Nintendo has kind of already moved to a more expensive paradigm.
that's what I'm saying.
I think trying to position this as a budget price is going to be, once Nintendo has released Switch 2 and they've come out with several first-party titles that are each priced at $70, I think that's when people will start accepting, quote-unquote, this idea of $50 being the new budget.
Price. No, I don't. I'm not purporting that people should accept that now. I'm saying they're teeing the ball up for that. I think that's what this is basically going to be, and it's they also they take these things on a case by case basis and weigh the strength of the IP as well. The reason the example everybody always goes back to is Prime Remastered being only $40. Well, it's like, well, that's because Metroid, like, nobody cares about Metroid. Like, the hardcore fans do.
Yeah.
We love Metroid. Metroid's great.
The vocal minority, but it doesn't sell 10 million copies.
Best-selling Metroid game is Dread with like 3 million copies sold. It just doesn't have that kind of power. And Luigi does. Like, sorry, Luigi's Mansion 3 alone, I think, has outsold the entire Metroid series. So
I think that's right.
That's why Luigi's Mansion 2 HD costs more money. It's because people pay more money for it. Despite the fact that it is, like, from the sounds of it, just like a bare bones, up-res essentially of a 3DS game. So,
well, if you want to hear a full review of that, check out our full episode of All In a Nintendo podcast tomorrow. Plug.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I just looked at that price point. I thought it was an interesting place to position, especially against the pricing of the old games, and especially against their competition. Paranormaside's $20 game, and I don't know how much Nintendo is even factoring that into their calculus, if they even care, if they even see Paranormaside as competition. I suspect that they don't. But like, when I'm evaluating this game, like, that's the kind of stuff that I'm looking at. Because there are other games in this genre. When they release a trilogy of Ace Attorney games that are remastered and up-res that are also kind of in this genre, those are coming out at, not $50, not $60. Those are $30-$40. So I think it's interesting. I think that that's the kind of thing that that Nintendo is going to have to weigh seriously when they come into the Switch 2, whatever the next generation is, how this stuff is going to be marketed and positioned to their audience, because people are already complaining about video game pricing.
Well, I do think that Nintendo is aware enough to know that the Famicom Detective Club series is not going to sell itself. I've got to imagine sometime within the next month we're going to get maybe even a Treehouse presentation showing off some of the more intricate gameplay details, because they know they've got to sell this game. They can't just say, ooh, here was this fun teaser, ooh, here's what it actually is, and then print money. That was the entire reason that they created the video, to it's like, hey, here's the first little tidbits, the first little nuggets, the first little crumbs of what you can expect from this title. But Nintendo's going to know they've got to drop more than just a couple crumbs. So I've got to imagine just in the next month before this game comes out, we're going to hear at least a few more things about what we can expect from Emio the Smiling Man.
Maybe. Yeah, I think we'll at least get another video. I think we'll at least get another, I don't know if they're going to devote resources to a whole Treehouse Live or something for it, but I could see them do, an overview trailer or whatever. Like, they're kind of want to do a little 7-minute, overview video or something like that. They did that for Endless Ocean also, so.
They do that for a lot of their first party titles. They've done it for, I mean, they did it recently for Luigi's Mansion 2 and Donkey Kong. I mean, even recently for, a little game that came out this week, the Nintendo World Championship. So yeah, at the very least, they need to do that, because when it comes to games like this, you've got to tell people, no, this isn't just a walking, talking sim. This is more than that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see if it is.
We'll see.
I'm gonna be very fascinated to know like what it's doing to push the genre forward, if anything. If it's just a cool story, that's fine, but like that's only gonna get you so far, I think, when you do have competition in the space. It's not
Yep.
like this is a unique thing anymore, so we'll see. I'm looking forward
Yep.
to it. I'm gonna play it. And another really cool thing, it is getting a physical release, which is also neat for physical collectors and to have that preserved. I mean, the original games, at least here in the States, are digital only, so it's cool that this is actually getting the full physical treatment.
Yeah.
Um,
It was
yeah,
weird, you see a lot of people, kind of in general beat the drum for a physical, but when this game was specifically revealed as a Famicom Detective Club, I did see a lot of people come out of the woodwork to be like, we're getting a physical of this one specifically, right? So I'm sure that was just mostly in part due to the fact that we didn't with the original two. But I just thought it was weird that when this specific game was revealed, I saw a lot of people on Twitter specifically coming out to request physicals for this. So I don't know. Hopefully, there's a lot of latent FTC fans out there.
yeah. I mean, they announced it like right away. Like it's getting a physical in
Yeah,
Japan. It's getting a collector's edition too.
yeah,
So, yeah, it's cool, man. It's not what I thought it was gonna be, and I also am kind of hopeful that Nintendo takes notice of what the fan response to this was, because I mean, what a lot of the fan response to it was like, oh my god, what is this? Is so unlike Nintendo. What is this? And everybody was kind of hoping. And actually was a little deflated when it wasn't a brand new horror IP from Nintendo. So if I'm Nintendo, I would look at that and I would say like, oh, like you want this? Okay. Maybe we'll think about that. So, really interesting. Really cool announcement. That's coming August 29th. Emio, the Smiling Man, Famicom Detective Club. Please be excited.
please
Okay,
be
well,
excited.
let's talk about a announcement that happened just over the past like 24 hours or so.
Yeah.
Ex Chibi Robo developers launched a brand new studio called Tiny Wonder Studio and have announced that they're working on a spiritual successor to Chibi Robo, which is coming to Kickstarter later this month. In fact, I think just in a few days, on the 22nd, I think the Kickstarter is launching for Korobo, and it looks like a spiritual successor to Chibi Robo.
Oh,
Like,
yes. I
yep.
mean, yeah, if they didn't immediately throw that logo out there, I would have just assumed, I was like, oh my God, how did they wrest the Chibi Robo license away? No, this is legally distinct. This is very clearly not Chibi Robo. Please don't sue us. But if you are a fan of Chibi Robo, this does look specifically like a game they're making for those who have been waiting for a new Chibi Robo. I mean, you play as this adorably diminutive little robot running around a big house in an incredibly colorful world, helping out this family. And I mean, it is Chibi Robo really in anything and everything but name. I am very excited to see what that kind of weird devil robot is, though, when the game comes out. But yeah, for those who have been banging the drum for this IP specifically that Nintendo won't bring back. Not that Nintendo was the one in charge of bringing it back, but yeah.
Yeah, it looks cool. It's Co-Robo, and again, a lot of those folks, Skip Limited closed like a year or two ago or something at this point. But I mean, it is literally. I mean, even Chibi Robo fans will even like pick up on little things like the character who creates Chibi Robo is like a young kid who also is like into frogs. There's like a frog, a frog plush on their bed and stuff, and you're exploring the house. It looks pretty. You can tell it's early in development or whatever, but
Yeah.
like you're and you are collecting like the love points just like in Chibi Robo. Yeah, it looks great. It looks like a follow up to the original Chibi Robo on GameCube, which is what I'm kind of looking for. Yeah, bring it on. I'm excited. I will definitely be supporting this on Kickstarter. And I've watched this trailer a bunch of times. I love just kind of looking at the little details in the background, and I'm looking forward to learning about the characters and seeing like what is the deal with this weird, because Chibi Robo is a pretty famously non-violent game, so I'm going to be really curious to see what the deal is with that character. And yeah. Bring it on. Excited.
This gave me this, back in the late kind of 2010s when you had all of these very clear spiritual successors coming out, the ukuleles of the world, the Mighty Number Nines, the Bloodstained Curse of the Moons, when you had all of those games that the AAA studios hadn't done anything with in years. This has really given me kind of flashbacks to that era of crowdfunding and those spiritual successor games coming out.
I'll do it myself.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I'm excited. Well, really quick, kind of a weird story. Kind of out of nowhere this week, Nintendo announced that they're putting out a new hardware accessory on October 17th. This like charging stand for your Joy-Con, and yeah, I mean, like this is actually a pretty cool announcement, and this is something that I think I personally will get a lot of use out of. But it does feel weird that we're getting like, why didn't this come out years ago?
I'm not somebody who necessarily plays in handheld mode very much. Like if you need to charge your Joy-Cons, well, I guess it makes sense for somebody who has like 3 or 4 sets of Joy-Cons.
Which I do. I have 3 pair of Joy-Con.
So yeah, in that regard, yeah, if you've only got one set, why not just use your Switch? But if you've got several different sets of Joy-Cons, I guess this would help out to make sure that they're all charged.
Yeah, it's cool because and I do have they made a when the Switch came out, they made like a charging grip, like it's like the Pro Controller grip, but it charges as well.
Yeah,
and I have that, but that's really clunky. Like this should have been here from day one, like a nice, elegant little thing to charge it where it doesn't need to be connected to the Switch itself. And, a lot of people have their speculation caps on with this where it's like, oh, well, the reason they're releasing this is because, Switch 2 is also going to be backwards compatible with your previously existing Joy-Con, but the, sort of rumors and speculation online is that the Switch 2 will not have detachable Joy-Con. So these will be compatible, but you need to still be able to charge them, separately. So from that perspective, it makes sense. Again, I don't know, like, if I buy into any of the rumors or whatever, but it is, like, the timing of it is weird. I have to admit that the timing of it is weird. It does look like you're going to be able to, like, both have it flat, if you want to just have it as, like, a flat piece to charge your Joy-Con on, or you can mount it if you want it to be, like, a vertical stand. And, yeah, I think this is great. I don't know what the price is going to be, but I'm assuming this is going to be sort of $20-$25, and, I'm going to get one. I'll get use out of it. It's whenever we have, like, my nephews will come over or something, and, like, invariably we'll go to, like, play Mario Party or Mario Kart, and, like, 2 of my Joy-Conners dead, So this will be great. This will be nice.
Well, depending on how long the cord is, you could also use it like a wired controller as well. So
that's true. Yeah.
With the stand taken off. I know that I've the little grip that comes with the Nintendo Switch that actually has kind of like the ergonomic backing. I played with that for many years, but I could actually see some people, if the cord's long enough, using this as kind of a wired controller option.
Yeah, you could do that too. It's neat. It's coming October 17th. It's, again, the only thing that's weird about it is the timing. It makes perfect sense to do it. It's just the timing is weird. Why now, going on 8 years of the Nintendo Switch, do you finally put this out? But, in any case, still cool.
Well, I mean, Nintendo, it's the Nintendo Switch has 150 million units out in the wild. Even though they may be going to Switch 2 here in the next year, I'm sure they're planning on supporting the Nintendo Switch for many years to come, because there's going to be a lot of people who still just have the Nintendo Switch. So this honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if this is just one of those things. It's like, what are the things that we should have done? What are the things that the Nintendo Switch should have that we need to kind of get out of the way before we 100% focus on Switch 2?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'll be happy if the Joy-Con on Switch 2 just work.
If they don't drift, huge win.
Yeah, huge win for me. Well, let's get into some notable releases here, Eric. I think the biggest one from this week is probably Nintendo World Championships NES Edition.
Finally out. Yep. So we've been waiting on this one for a little while. This is essentially not NES Remix 3. This is a game where, as we've seen over the past couple months, you take on 150 different challenges across 13 separate NES games, trying to compete for the best times, both between your friends and with fun online leaderboards. I mean, yeah, it is exactly what it says on the tin. This is exactly the game we knew was coming out. However, apparently there's a fun little tidbit that I didn't know that actually popped you a little bit, Seth. This idea that you can actually set up your favorite NES game as part of your profile or something. What's that about?
Oh yeah, that's cute. Yeah, you can apparently like set your favorite NES game on your profile. You can like have titles and stuff like a lot of Nintendo games have done, but yeah, you can put what your favorite, and they just have a catalog of like every NES game on there. And you can even change regions too for like Famicom games and stuff. That's really cute. For me, the big thing with this, people are actually enjoying the game. And even in our community, we have a few people playing it, and people are having fun. The biggest thing for me, apparently, this does not have friend leaderboards,
Yeah.
which is a massive miss to me. Like, what? Because I was kind of teetering on the edge because the game's only $30, and I was getting to a place where I was like, maybe I will just go ahead and just bite the bullet and get it. But then I heard there was no friend leaderboards, and I'm like, I don't know, man. I like that's such a massive miss to me. Like I don't know. I'm not about that.
Yeah, they could wind up adding them in, but I do understand because there's a lot of people within our community. There's a lot of games that we've played within our community that have wound up gaining a lot of traction just from a couple people trading times back and forth. Cough, neon white, cough.
Sure, but I mean, like, and I understand, like, and Shy Guy was telling me too. He's like, yeah, but my friends and I are just like, we'll take pictures and share them with each other. I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, like, I know I could do that, but like, I want to see everybody's times on I don't understand why the game doesn't have it. And there've been like so many games like Monkey Ball, same way. Banana Rumble doesn't have friend leaderboards either. I'm like, what are y'all doing? Like, how do y'all keep dropping the ball on this? But, I'm glad people are having fun with the game regardless. But, until they add that, I don't think I'm personally interested.
Fair enough. I'm just waiting on my collector's edition. I pre-ordered it. Still hasn't come in yet. Hopefully it comes in tomorrow. But I'm actually excited to jump in. Specifically, when they did the treehouse for it, I learned about the legend challenges that each of the games has, and I'm actually really interested in checking out those legendary level challenges for each of the different NES games, because the legendary level challenge for the original Super Mario Brothers is just beat the game, literally speed run the game. So I'm interested to see what the other ones could potentially be. A lot of them are going to be super simple, literally being able to finish in less than a couple seconds. And initially that kind of turned me off. I was like, well, it's just kind of like WarioWare. I've got 150 challenges. Each of them takes 3 seconds long. I'll be done with this game before I need to go to lunch. But the increasing level of difficulty, the increasing level of complexity, and again, the fact that each one of these games is going to end with like a really genuinely massive, interesting challenge, it does actually made me really excited to finally jump into it, which I hopefully will be able to this weekend.
Yeah, well, there are other people playing in the community. If y'all want to share your pictures around in the community gaming, channel on our Discord, come on in, and there are other people playing. But let's go into the world of indie games with 3's Panic Pack, which is a really cool surprise. This was just announced like a week ago. And it's already out. It came out today, as a matter of fact. This is 3 games. Tori Genesis making its console debut, and then 2 other games that were developed not by Ciactro in this pack. And this is just a 99-cent pack of 3 games, 3 tiny Tori games. And the Tori franchise, because it is a little franchise at this point, is kind of just like these really great, well-made little 99-cent platformers that you can get through in sort of an hour and a half, and just everything we've seen from just the trailer here, I'm like, yeah, dude, you got my dollar.
Yeah. I was
like,
mistaken. I initially thought that this was going to be a collection of like the previous Tori games, like Tori 1,
It's all
I'm
new.
sorry, Tori 3D, Tori 2, and
Mm-hmm.
then the extra content that they wound up releasing for Tori 2. But no, yeah, this is all new. I hope that we wind up getting Tori Saturn on the Nintendo Switch at some point. That's
It
going
is
to
coming to
come.
Switch. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Mm-hmm.
Uh, but yeah, really interested to jump in for the admittedly short amount of time it's going to take, but really fun. I really enjoy both of these, both of the previous games in the Tori series, and I'm sure I'm going to love this one too. Talk about speed running stuff.
Yeah, they're just great, like good feeling platformers. And I read Nintendo Life's review, and they
Yeah,
say the ones that were made like not by Ciactro, the other two, not Torii Genesis, they apparently are like really hard. Which I'm looking forward to. I'm the idea of having a game like Tori's. They're just good feeling, like
yeah.
low poly 3D platformers, really fast, fluid movement and stuff. So the idea of playing like a really challenging version of that sounds good to me. So
Yeah.
I'm looking at that. Tori Missions apparently is the hard one. So yeah,
And man, do I really like that selection screen with like the Sega
yes.
Saturn like CD covers. That's chef's kiss. I love that.
And again, the whole pack of 3 games is 99 cents. So yeah, I recommend any of anything with Tori's name on it. You can safely spend your dollar. You
Yeah.
know, it's a
You can
dollar.
buy,
You have enough gold coins laying around.
you can buy all of Ciactro's games that he's released on the Nintendo Switch for less than the price of most discount games.
Yeah, yeah, it's wild. So highly recommend. Shout outs to this game, Bo Path of the Teal Lotus, which I do have a video for up on the YouTube channel after I finally got my Kickstarter code. This is like a little Hollow Knight game, essentially. If you are somebody who's like a massive fan of a Hollow Knight style Metroidvania and you're looking for, this is like Hollow Knight with the art style of like Okami or something. Kind of a lot of like, that sort of like Japanese flavor to it, Japanese mythology. It's really cool. Like it is a really good one of those. And if you're looking for a tide over for Silksong, I think this is probably something you should check out.
Yeah.
So
And the video here is from Seth's first look. So if you want to actually see the first, hour or so of the game, you can jump on our
yeah,
YouTube channel. And Seth did a first look for Bo, Path of the Lotus, Teal Path of the Lotus,
Path of the Teal Lotus.
Path of the Teal Lotus. I knew there was a teal in there somewhere.
Yep. Yep. His little like little fox cat god thing, literally born of the teal lotus. So it's cool. Really pretty, runs well on Switch. I don't have any major complaints with it. If you like games like that, you're probably gonna like this. So shout outs to that. We also TMNT Splintered Fate came out this week, which is the sort of roguelike Hades-esque TMNT game that's been on mobile devices for a little while. And apparently, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people saying that they're really enjoying it already and that it absolutely gives them Hades vibes. We should have some coverage of this game coming up in the next week. I'm really looking forward to playing it myself. I've always been a big TMNT fan, and I was a little concerned because we've had so many TMNT games coming out. Recently, we've had some really quality TMNT games come out, especially with stuff like the Cowabunga collection. But then, another recent release didn't quite hit as hard. And now we've already got another game based on the more recent Mutant Mayhem movie that's already been announced for coming out later on this year. So I was a little concerned with all the TMNT stuff, but apparently this is a fun time.
That's what I hear. It's actually getting pretty well reviewed, and we did get a code for this just earlier today. So thank you to the publisher who passed along the code. We will have coverage for this next week, but like Matt already started playing it, and he has nice things to say about it so far. So yeah, looks cool. If you're into Hades or roguelikes, definitely check it out. Speaking of
They're
roguelikes,
going to give us everything but a fighting game at this point for TMNT.
yeah, maybe someday. Speaking of roguelikes, Darkest Dungeon 2 also finally released on the Nintendo Switch. I put up a video for it earlier today. I'm a big fan of the first Darkest Dungeon. This game is quite different straight away from the first Darkest Dungeon. The combat has similar vibes, but the way you move around the overworld is totally different. A lot of the systems and a lot of that is quite different to the first game. So there's already so much depth in the game, and I went to the wrong neighborhood in my playthrough. And Darkest Dungeon is very much about that. Like, Darkest Dungeon is a difficult game. And so, come into it knowing that. In fact, when you start up the game for the first time, it tells you, like, hey, you're gonna fail. Like, this is a hard game, but like, persevere, push through, but yes, like, it is more Darkest Dungeon. It is the kind of thing that I just love to have on my Switch. It's going to be the kind of thing that I go back to, over and over again. I'm looking forward to losing a bunch of time in this game.
Nice. I didn't realize it was going to be that different, but you say it's pretty substantially different already.
Because like in the first Darkest Dungeon, when you go into dungeons, you're just kind of moving on like a static, kind of world, and you have encounters and things like this. On this one, it's like a full 3D like stagecoach that has its own like little stagecoach management and stuff. You can get items and upgrade the stagecoach. It's like presenting story to you on the 3D overworld as you're moving it. You have to like dodge obstacles that are in the road and stuff. Like the combat again is fairly similar, but the actual like way that you progress through the game is quite different to the first one. So
nice.
It's cool, man. I'm looking forward to playing more of it. I've just been waiting on this to come to Switch. So,
yeah. And again, that was another one of your first look videos, also up on our YouTube channel.
Yep. Thank you to the publisher for providing us the code for that. Deliver Us the Moon also came out this week. Admittedly, I don't know a lot about this. Lachlan was talking about it on the Nintendo Drive last night. I think she's streaming it this weekend or something. It's like apparently like one of these like space simulator things, and I guess it's like pretty popular. I'd heard the title before, but I had no idea it was coming to Switch.
Yeah, admittedly, I'm not super familiar with it. I'll have to check out one of her streams this weekend if she's playing it. So I'd love to be able to talk about it, but I really don't know much.
Yeah, looks interesting. This is like there's like other entries in the series too. There's like Deliver Us the Mars and Deliver Us the Earth and stuff like that.
Nice.
So, and then last thing we'll shout out here. Yeah, you want those games right, so here you go. Now let's see you clear them too.
Okay,
Shadow dropped.
So yeah. I just heard about this game a couple days ago, but the entire conceit of this title is, all of those dumb ads for weird mobile games that we see when we're on Twitter or something like that are always completely falsely advertising what the games actually are. Somebody went in and actually kind of based an entire game around making those games into actual playable games. And I thought that was just an amazing, amazing concept. Very specifically, like I'm sure we've all seen the one, like this one right here, where you have the character on the endless road moving left.
Yeah, endless runner.
The endless runner with the guns where you're trying to shoot the power-ups and trying to take out all the enemies in front of you. Just the fact that somebody decided to take all of those weird false advertising mobile ad presentations and try to make a game around those, I just thought was a genius concept.
Yeah, I remember when the first game came out, the novelty of just like how silly the title is, I think did a lot of the heavy lifting for it. But it's out. It shadow dropped actually, and I did see a few people talking about this. So,
and it's only $10. That alone is probably going to get me to pick it up this weekend just to check. I'm not going to say it's amazing, but really interesting concept, low price point. I mean, frankly, for me, that's all you need sometimes. But if I wind up checking it out, I'll report back and let you guys know if it's actually fun.
Yeah, play those games.
I'll play games.
5 types of mini games, 250 total stages, new games in the those games genre. So, very good.
Yes, sir. Well, there's again, like we said, a lot going on this weekend. We got Bit Summit, we got Evo, a lot of games just came out. In addition, didn't the game behind me also come out?
Oh yeah, I totally missed Shim. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Shim did come out this week, of course. Shim is a game that we're covering on the main show this week, and we have a first look video as well that
yeah.
Eric made on
Seth
the
just
YouTube
did.
channel.
Seth just didn't want to show off the video that I made this week. That's what...
I guess not. Yeah, it's right here. We have it. It's Shim is yeah. I just completely. What's funny is the video went up last week. We got the game quite early, and the embargo went up early, so I like had it in my mind as a last week game. But yeah, it's a this week game. It came out this week, and we're going to be talking about it in the Indie Showcase on the podcast tomorrow as well. So
Yeah, but as you can see, this is a really interesting isometric little 3D platformer where you actually play as essentially what we've kind of now started just simply referring to as an SGFT, Shadow Ghost Frog thing.
it's not a thing. Stop trying to make it a thing. It's not a thing.
Totally a thing. But no, you play as this titular Shim jumping from shadow to shadow, and essentially just using the different items whose shadows you jump into to kind of make your way from point A to point B. But really interesting conceit. And again, we have another first look of this up on the YouTube channel right now. So if you want to see more of Shim, that is available. And also, like Seth said, it is our indie showcase this weekend. So we'll be talking about this game quite a bit more in tomorrow's full episode of All In.
Yep. So look forward to that. I'm gonna do one last look. I don't think I missed anything else. Yes, it looks like we're good. I think that is all of our notable releases.
Well, also, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, but a ton of stuff going on this weekend, ton of games that just came out. But let us know what you guys are up to. We would love to hear. You can reach out to us on Facebook at All In Podcast, on Twitter at All In Podcast. Again, come in, join the Discord if you want to play some Nintendo World Championships in ES Edition. I'm gonna start playing it when it comes in tomorrow. Hopefully, we can find a few people to start trading some times back and start having some fun with the game. In addition to that, we have Splatoon players, we have Endless Ocean Luminous players. We've got a ton of people. So whatever your flavor, I'm sure you can find some friends and some kindred spirits within our incredibly positive and inviting Discord. So come join the fun. In addition to that, if you're following us here on YouTube, first of all, do make sure to like, subscribe, and click the bell for notifications before you leave the stream. But also, don't forget, we've got a ton of other content available on this YouTube channel, available right now. In addition to the first looks that we were just talking about, we also have episodes of a series we do called Quarter Circle Forward. We have first looks at a ton of up-and-coming indie titles, not just the couple we mentioned. We have streams, and all kinds of other content, these weekly news roundups, all kinds of stuff. So make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss any of it. But in addition to all of that, in addition to the main show, all the YouTube stuff, we still somehow find time to create exclusive content for all of our Stanleys.
That's right. Patreon.com/allinpodcast is the place to go. Check us out. Exclusive content up there every single week. Sorry, I'm trying to do this like plug here while I'm actively pre-ordering the new amiibo on GameStop's website right now. So, check that out on Patreon. Patreon.com/allinpodcast. Great way to support the show and everything we do here. Also picking up some merch, allin.media, our website and merch store. That's a great way to support the show as well. Yeah, if you watch us here on YouTube, watching the VOD later on or whatever, like and subscribe. We really appreciate that. And if you listen to us on your audio feed, leave us a 5-star rating or review. That is another great, easy and free way to support our show. So thank you very much for doing that.
I love the priorities of the man who owns every amiibo. Just like, yeah. I have to have them all.
This is how you get it done, man. This is how you get it done.
But for everybody who has picked up a piece of our merch at allin.media, it's everybody who has dropped words on whatever podcasting service you happen to follow us on, to everybody who has become one of those legendary patrons we shouted out at the top of the show, and to anybody who has even just shared our content across this vast internet of ours. To each and every one of you, we would like to extend a huge namaste.
Namaste, everybody.
And
that is the news.
And I do want to add just one thing here at the end. So just for anybody out there who's still watching, just do me a favor. raise a glass this weekend. It was a little bit of an emotional week within my family. I actually lost my grandmother this weekend. Wonderful, wonderful little lady called Barbara Jo Provost, and absolute light in this world. I was very fortunate to be able to spend her final day with her. We're not going to be having a service. Instead, she just asked that people raise a glass. So I am officially, as a member of her family, inviting you to do so this weekend. So I hope you will all join me.
Raise a Stanley, raise a glass. Yeah.
Raise a Stanley.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, thanks, y'all. Thanks for being here. Thank you, Eric, and have a great weekend, everybody. We already got some raising a glass here in the chat, and lots of love for you and your family here in the chat, Eric. So
thank you.
There you go. Raise a glass, everyone.
Yeah, but don't forget to check out a brand new episode of All In dropping tomorrow. We've got a ton of fun stuff going on. In honor of Evo, we have our top 5 fighting game mains in Nintendo history. Obviously, as we just mentioned, we have a wonderful, wonderful little indie showcase on Shim going on. And of course, we have a huge, huge review, like we mentioned earlier, for Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, which sees the return of an old friend of All In coming back for the review of Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. Our friend Cheesy from the Communication Error podcast and the Nintendo Powercast makes his triumphant return.
That's right. That's tomorrow on a brand new episode of All In Nintendo Podcast hitting your podcast feeds. That's tomorrow, but bye for now. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye.